What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Pete Logical, and today I am going to be giving you my thoughts and opinion on the latest Mel Gibson piloted movie, Flight Risk. Now, this is a film where I've heard literally no positive buzz over. January is basically a historically dead year for movies where studios just like pumping their worst stuff of the year out to earn a quick buck before their latest big money maker, which they drop later in the year. Sometimes things can slip through the cracks, like last year. I was a big fan of The Beekeeper, and that came out in January. It was one of the first movies I saw from last year, and it was high on my year-end list of 2024, and it was one that I was shocked to see on a lot of the movie reviewers' end of the year's movie list too. So sometimes you get a movie like that where people really dig it, but most of the times you are going to be dealing with a dud if you go to a movie in January as opposed to later in the year, like spring, summer. Those are usually the time of year where you want to go see a movie. It's not in the winter times. But anyways, I was nervous to check this one out because basically everyone shat on it. I was debating not even going to this because of that, but I'm a movie reviewer, so sometimes I want to get one that I can roast if I don't like it, and if I do, then I do, and I'm real with you. So be it. But this was one that I was most likely not gonna like. So, but the silver lining of this was Mel Gibson, because this is a Mel Gibson movie, and he, whatever you guys think of him as a person, Mel Gibson is one of the best actors and filmmakers of our time. So it's a Mel Gibson movie, so it's worth checking out just for that. Or is it? I'll let you guys know in a few minutes. But first, if you do me a favor and hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel for more movie content like this. I am going to go over the cast real quick for you, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on this movie of all time, Flight Risk. So, Michelle Dockery is Madeline Harris. She was in things like Downton Abbey. Mark Wahlberg is in this movie. He plays a pilot disguised as Daryl Booth. Topher Grace is also in it. He plays Winston. Leah Remini is Caroline Van Sant. Paul Ben Victor is Director Coleridge. Maz Ali voices Hassan. And Moneb Abat appears as Hassan at the end of the film. So, there's a lot of talent here. That's the first thing I can point out. Like, a lot of these are, there's a few in here that I don't really recognize, but you got people like Mark Wahlberg, Topher Grace, Michelle Dockery, who can put in very good performances. I know Mark Wahlberg's a funny name, because, he's very polarizing because he plays basically the same role in everything. So you either like that or you don't, most of the times. we're gonna get to him in a few minutes, but let's dive into my review of this thing. So, I do these reviews in a positive, mixed, negative style format, where the positives are the stuff I liked, the negatives are the stuff I didn't, and the mixed are the stuff in the middle, or a post-credit scene, fun fact, that kind of stuff for you. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the positives. And for me, basically the best thing about this movie was Topher Grace and Michelle Dockery. Their whole dynamic with each other, and with the other characters of the film. You have, I don't think these are I don't think this is Topher Grace's best performance by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not going to call him a standout or anything. And I thought Michelle was kind of an annoying character in this. But you almost feel bad for them because they were clearly the best actors in this film, and they were trying to make this work even though they knew the script was bad. They knew this was a bad film. So you could sometimes they would be outperforming the other co-stars in this, and I just got to give them credit for this. I'm not going to hate on them too much, but I mean, I could go into the negatives when I basically am going to roast everything else about the film, but I believe they were the best thing about this film to me, and whenever they were on screen, I was intrigued of the plot. Again, I'll get into that later on. But the other thing is, I think the movie was shot pretty well. It is a dialogue-heavy film where not a lot goes on. There's some action sequences in the film, but they're few and far between. So I think it was shot pretty well because the film basically takes place on a plane, and you're dealing with characters bantering back and forth with each other for most of it. Sometimes that works if the plot is good, other times it doesn't if it's kind of boring. Well, where do I fall on this? Well, let's go on to the negative aspect. Yes, aside from those two things, I mostly hated this film, and I was struggling to not be bored out of my mind while watching this. And I guess I'm going to start with Mark Wahlberg here. Well, contrary to popular belief, I like Mark Wahlberg. I think he's a decent actor, and I've liked stuff from him in the past. This one did not work at all for me. I actually hated him here. He has this stupid old man haircut, and it's a traditional bald man, late 60s bald, with the hair on the side, that type of haircut that you've seen in pretty much everything. They do it with Mark Wahlberg here, and he actually did shave his head like this, but whoever shaved it, whether it was him or whether it was the stylist he was going to, they forgot to trim the hairline on the middle of his head, which reveals his actual bald spot that he has, where normally his hair would cover everything else, so you don't notice it. But whenever he didn't have a hat on, and you zoomed in on his forehead and his scalp, you notice the hairline going right through it, and It's so dumb, and it made me laugh from the first time I saw this. And the plot was basically one note, like some other movies have been, but this one was so one note and so incredibly boring. I literally could not stand half of the things going on in this, where Mark Wahlberg plays a rogue pilot, and you find out early on in the film from Topher Grace's character that he's actually the main villain of this, and so you're just waiting until the other characters start to realize what's going on. And when they do, instead of being shocked because you had that information already, you're like, okay, what's next? This was obvious. He's not who he says he is. And that's disappointing because everything else was basically shenanigans where they knock him out, they tie him to the back of the plane, and it leaves the other two who haven't flown a plane before in their life trying to figure out, how the fuck are we going to fly this plane? It's like, and so they call for help, and the radio transmitter, when it finally gets a signal, they're like, oh, what do you need? What do you need? We need help. Okay, yeah, I know you need help, but what's going on? It's that kind of dialogue here. And it just, it made me so furious at this thing. I wanted to walk out so bad. But I stuck around to the end because there are some hilarious moments in here. And when I say hilarious, I'm not talking about hilarious as in a good thing. I'm talking about these were so incredibly dumb that it either made me cringe or it was so freaking unrealistic. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, and this was the one that is probably going to make this movie famous, and I don't blame it. So they're driving this plane, and they drive it through a mountain peak. And the plane doesn't explode on impact. It just goes right through the mountain, and you can see the propeller flying around. And it's like, bro, how the hell is that even possible? And they're trying to avoid the mountain, mind you. They're trying to avoid it, but they fail to avoid it, and it just goes right through the mountain. So you're thinking everybody's dead, but nope. It's just the plane magically survived the impact. Like, what are we doing? The other thing, early on in the film, where I told you Mark Wahlberg's character got revealed to be the main villain. Well, Michelle Dockery's character points a gun at him, and Mark Wahlberg is saying, you can't shoot me because the bullet might go through me, hit the wall, poke a hole in the wall, or it's going to ricochet back at you. And it's like, no, it might if you're like paper thin, but it would go in you and you would be dead. That's how this thing would work. So instead of doing that, which would be the right thing to do when he's threatening your life, they decide to knock him unconscious and zip tie him to the back of the carrier area. So he's just in the back like this for most of the film. He's just like this. And it's like, what? Like, why? Why are you keeping this guy around? I get that you're a U.S. Marshal, but like, and you're supposed to be anti-killing, but when somebody's threatening you with a knife or a gun, you do everything in your power to save yourself. So why wouldn't you shoot him early on, kill him, and go on your merry way? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So there was that. Another thing, when Michelle knocks him over the head with a fire extinguisher, and I shit you guys not, there is a moment where the fire extinguisher hits his head, and it's the most cartoony sound effect that you will ever hear in your life. It's like something straight out of a old 70s cartoon. I shit you guys not. It's the dumbest sound effect I've heard, but it makes it also hilarious, and it's a good laugh out loud moment. But I don't know if it's something they want to be remembered for. There's another moment where Michelle shoots him finally, but with a flare gun in the face. and when she puts him out with the fire extinguisher, her bright idea would be to open the window mid-flight to get all of the smoke out of the plane. Mid-flight, when the thing's on autopilot. Turbulence. What's going on here? Everyone in that plane would fly out of the cockpit at that point. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And then later on in the film, my next one is, there's a moment of dialogue in the script between Hassan and Michelle. Again, I feel so bad for Michelle Dockery because she was trying to make this stuff work, but it just doesn't. Where Hassan says over the radio, after she runs out of fuel, he says to her, "Gas not required." You don't need gas in order for you to land this plane and keep yourself safe. Bro, if the plane mid-flight and you're not on the ground yet runs out of fuel, that thing's falling straight to Earth. What do you mean you don't need gas? What do you mean your momentum will carry you forward? Yeah, maybe forward to your brace for impact moment, but like, the point is, you're not surviving that, my friend. You're not doing that at all. So, like, why are you expecting the audience to buy into this? And even when they do land the plane, that sequence is dumb too, because one of the tires pops off the plane. The wing splits in half when it hits the ground, and the guy and Mark Wahlberg's character finally shoots out of the cockpit and onto the pavement and then gets hit by a fire truck. Like, even the landing wasn't good in this film. Like, what are you talking about? I swear, this thing was the dumbest thing to sit through. And I could rant on this for days, but you get the point. This film had some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard. Some of the worst characters some of the worst characters I've ever seen. This was definitely a movie I didn't like Mark Wahlberg in, and that's something. Because I genuinely like Mark Wahlberg. I think he's a likable person, but damn, I wanted to punch him so bad when I was watching this. So overall, what are my thoughts on this? Well, it's completely dumb. It's a horrible story with the most forgettable plot ever and a bunch of dumb characters. If you have to see this, go when the tickets are discounted. If your theater has like a $5 Tuesday or whatever, and you want to watch a bad movie, well, this might be your ticket here. Otherwise, you can wait to stream this garbage whenever you want. Because then, if you get sick of it, you're not spending money to watch this. So over on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have a 26%, and the audience gave this a 64%. I want to know what the audience is watching here. Maybe it's the so bad it's good type thing, so they're giving this a low end but for me it's just, even that doesn't save this, because I've seen those types of movies before, and you're talking Madam Web territory with this one. I don't think it's that bad, but like Madam Web got, I'm giving this a 1.5 out of 5, and overall I'm giving this a 18%. Just, if you have to give this one a watch, wait to stream it, or like I said, get it discounted, because it would be a complete ripoff for you guys to watch this at any other point. All right, that's all for me in this one. What did you guys think about it? Are you one of the minorities that actually liked this movie? If so, great. I'm not trying to rain on your parade at all. I'm just saying the movie did not work for me. So be sure to let me know in the comments section what you guys thought of it. And until next time, I'll see you pilots later. Take care.